They told her she'd never measure up to her father's legend. Colonel James Reaper Brooks had been the stuff of Army aviation folklore, a Night Stalker pilot who died saving his crew in Iraq. 20 years later, his daughter Amanda would face her own moment of truth over the skies of Somalia. With her Black Hawk failing and hostages depending on her, she'd discover that some legacies aren't inherited, they're earned in the darkness, one impossible decision at a time. Amanda Brooks was 7 when her father first told her about flying in the dark. "Phoenix," he said, using the nickname that stuck before she could walk, "the Night Stalkers own the night. When everyone else is sleeping safe in their beds, we're out there making sure they can keep sleeping." She sat cross-legged on their kitchen floor, watching him clean his flight helmet. The smell of Hop's gun oil filled the room. Her mother worked at the stove, pretending not to listen. "What's it like up there, Daddy?" "Like being invisible," he said. "Like having superpowers." That was 2003. 2 years later, Colonel James Reaper Brooks died when his helicopter went down in Iraq. Amanda kept his helmet. Now, 28 years later, Lieutenant Colonel Amanda Brooks stood in the same hangar at Fort Campbell where her father once flew. The Kentucky morning was crisp, and the familiar sound of rotor blades spinning up echoed across the flight line. "Brooks, you're up," called Colonel Martinez from the operations desk. Amanda walked over, her boots clicking against the concrete. Martinez had flown with her father. Had been there the night he died. The older man looked at her with the same expression he'd worn at the funeral, part pride, part sadness. "Got your orders," he said, handing her a sealed envelope. 160th SOAR. Night Stalkers. Amanda's chest tightened. She'd been waiting for this assignment her entire career, but now that it was here, her hands felt cold. "Congratulations, Phoenix. Your old man would be proud." She nodded, not trusting her voice. Around the hangar, other pilots worked on their aircraft. Some glanced her way. Word traveled fast in Army aviation. "There's more," Martinez said quietly. "Mission brief in 20 minutes. Real-world tasking." "Already?" "They need someone who can handle pressure. Your eval scores were the highest we've seen." Amanda walked to her locker and pulled out her flight bag. Inside, wrapped in an old t-shirt, was her father's helmet. She ran her fingers over the worn leather where his call sign was painted, Reaper. "Talking to ghosts again?" Amanda turned. Chief Warrant Officer Hayes stood behind her, arms crossed. He was older than her father would have been now, with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Just checking my gear, Chief." "Right." Hayes stepped closer. "Listen up, Brooks. I flew with your daddy. Good man. Hell of a pilot. But being James Brooks' daughter don't mean you belong here." Amanda felt heat rise in her cheeks. "I earned this assignment." "Maybe. We'll see." Hayes looked at the helmet in her hands. "Question is, are you Amanda Brooks, or are you just trying to be him?" Before she could answer, Martinez's voice boomed across the hangar. "Mission brief, people. Conference room, now." Amanda shoved the helmet back into her bag and followed the group. The conference room smelled like coffee and old cigarettes. Maps of Somalia covered one wall. Intelligence photos showed a remote village surrounded by brown hills. "American aid workers," Martinez began, pointing at the map. "3 of them. Grabbed by Al-Shabaab militants yesterday. State Department says negotiate. Pentagon says we don't negotiate with terrorists." A younger pilot raised his hand. "Timeline? 48 hours before they move the hostages. Maybe less." Martinez looked around the room. "This is a Night Stalker mission. Low visibility insertion, quick extraction. 2 birds, minimum crew." Amanda studied the photos. The village sat in a valley with limited approach routes. Hills on 3 sides meant crosswinds. Bad terrain for a night landing. "Who's lead pilot?" Hayes asked. Martinez paused. "Brooks." The room went quiet. Amanda felt every eye on her. Hayes leaned back in his chair, studying her face. Any questions? Martinez asked. Hayes raised his hand slowly. Just wondering if Daddy's little girl can handle real Night Stalker work, or if she's just riding coattails to glory. The words hit like a slap. Amanda's jaw tightened, but she kept her voice level. I guess we'll find out, Chief. Martinez cleared his throat. Equipment check in 30 minutes. Wheels up at 2300. Get some rest while you can. As the room emptied, Amanda remained seated, staring at the map. Somalia. Her first mission as a Night Stalker would take her halfway around the world, into hostile territory, with a crew that questioned whether she belonged there. She touched the dog tags under her flight suit, her father's tags, the ones they'd given her mother with his personal effects. The metal was warm against her skin. Outside, the sun was setting, painting the Kentucky sky red and orange. Soon it would be dark. Soon she would own the night, just like her father had taught her all those years ago. The detailed mission briefing started at 1900 hours. Amanda sat in the front row, notebook open, pen ready. The room held 12 Night Stalkers, pilots, crew chiefs, and door gunners who'd flown dozens of missions together. Major Patterson, the intelligence officer, clicked through satellite photos on the overhead screen. Target is here, he said, pointing to a cluster of buildings. Village called Balad, about 60 kilometers inland from Mogadishu. Amanda studied the terrain. Rocky hills surrounded the village like a bowl. One main road led in from the north. Limited escape routes. Hostages are Dr. Sarah Mitchell, medical coordinator. James Hartwell, water systems engineer. And Rebecca Stone, agricultural specialist. Patterson clicked to photos of 3 Americans. All confirmed alive as of this morning. Hayes leaned forward. How confirmed? Drone surveillance. Heat signatures show 5 captors, 3 hostages in the main building. Patterson switched to thermal imagery. Al-Shabaab cell, led by a guy called Qatar. He's got a price on his head and nothing to lose. Martinez stood up. Here's how we do this. 2 Black Hawks. Brooks leads in Phoenix 1. Hayes, you've got Phoenix 2 with the extraction team. He looked around the room. Insertion at 0200 local time. Gives us maximum darkness window. Amanda made notes on approach vectors and fuel calculations. The numbers looked tight but workable. Weather, she asked. Clear skies, light winds. Should be perfect flying conditions. Patterson pulled up wind charts. Temperature will be dropping, so you'll have good lift capability. After the briefing, Amanda walked to the equipment bay. Her crew chief, Staff Sergeant Williams, was already laying out gear. Night vision goggles, survival radios, medical supplies. First Night Stalker mission, ma'am? Williams asked. Yes. My dad flew with your father in Afghanistan. Said Colonel Brooks could land a helicopter in a phone booth if he had to. Amanda picked up her flight helmet, the new one issued by the 160th. Her father's helmet stayed in her locker. Too many memories to carry into combat. Williams, how long you been doing this? 6 years, ma'am. Seen some stuff. He handed her the mission radio. But never lost a bird or crew. Plan to keep it that way. Martinez appeared in the doorway. Brooks, walk with me. They stepped outside into the cool evening air. The flight line was busy with pre-flight activity. Ground crews loaded weapons and checked engines. You nervous? Martinez asked. Should I be? Your father asked me the same question before his first combat mission. Martinez stopped walking. Want to know what I told him? Yes. I said being nervous means you understand what's at stake. Means you give a damn. Martinez looked toward the helicopters. James wasn't fearless, Phoenix. He was careful. Methodical. That's what kept him alive for 14 years. Amanda felt a cold knot in her stomach. Until it didn't. That's not fair to him or yourself. Martinez's voice was firm. Your father died because his co-pilot froze during an emergency. James took manual control and flew them out of the kill zone. Saved 12 people that night. The bird went down during extraction. Amanda had never heard the full story. Her mother had protected her from the details. He could have ejected earlier, Martinez continued. Could have saved himself. But that wasn't James Brooks. He brought his people home first. They walked in silence toward Amanda's helicopter. Phoenix 1 sat under bright work lights, rotors folded back like sleeping wings. Martinez, Amanda said quietly, what if I'm not good enough? The older man stopped and faced her. Your father saved 12 men the night he died. But he also left behind a daughter who never got to say goodbye. Don't let his ghost get you killed trying to prove you're worthy of a legacy that was already yours. Amanda felt the words hit deep. She'd spent 20 years carrying the weight of living up to a memory. The mission comes first, Martinez said. Your crew comes second. You come third. In that order. Always. Copy that. Martinez checked his watch. Get some rest. Chow at 2100, then final brief at 2230. Amanda walked back to her quarters. The small room held a narrow bed, a desk, and photos of her family. Her mother at graduation from flight school. Her father in his dress uniform. Her younger brother in his Marine fatigues. She pulled out her laptop and opened the mission files. Studied the target building layout, memorized the GPS coordinates, reviewed emergency procedures. Planning was everything in special operations. Plan for success, plan for failure, plan for everything in between. At 2100, she joined the crew in the dining facility. The conversation was quiet, focused. Hayes sat across from her, eating methodically. Brooks, he said between bites, what's your backup plan if the LZ is hot? Abort and circle for secondary insertion point. What if secondary is compromised? Extract the ground team and reassess. Hayes nodded slowly. What if I go down? Amanda met his eyes. I complete the mission alone. Even if it violates safety protocols? The mission comes first, she said, repeating Martinez's words. For the first time since she'd met him, Hayes smiled. Maybe you do belong here. The dining hall was starting to empty. Outside, the sound of helicopter engines grew louder as mechanics ran final checks. Soon they would lift off into the darkness, carrying their mission toward the coast of Africa. Amanda finished her coffee and headed for the flight line. Time to find out what kind of pilot she really was. At 2300 hours, Phoenix 1 lifted off from the USS Bataan, 40 miles off the Somali coast. The Navy ship's deck lights fell away beneath them as Amanda climbed into the darkness. Phoenix 1 airborne, she radioed. On course, on time. Phoenix 2, copy, Hayes responded from the second helicopter. Right behind you. Amanda checked her instruments. Fuel flow normal. Engine temps good. Navigation system showing a direct course to the target. She settled into the familiar rhythm of night flying, watching the green glow of her displays while listening to the steady beat of rotor blades above. Her co-pilot, Captain Morrison, worked the radios. Young guy, maybe 26, with steady hands and a calm voice. Good combination for special operations. How's it look back there, Williams? Amanda asked over the intercom. Her crew chief checked the cabin where 6 Rangers sat ready for the ground assault. All green, ma'am. Everyone's locked and loaded. The Somali coastline appeared ahead as a thin dark line against the horizon. Amanda dropped to 200 feet above the water, skimming the surface to avoid radar detection. The Black Hawk's downwash kicked up spray from the waves below. Feet dry, Morrison announced as they crossed the beach. Starting inland navigation. Amanda pulled up the GPS display. 60 kilometers to target. 30 minutes of flying over hostile territory where any farmer with an AK-47 could cause problems. The landscape below was barren hills and scattered villages. Occasional lights marked settlements, but most of the country slept in darkness. Perfect conditions for Night Stalker operations. Phoenix 1, this is Phoenix 2, Hayes called. I've got an intermittent navigation reading. System keeps dropping out for a few seconds. Amanda glanced at her own GPS solid green display, coordinates tracking normally. Phoenix 1 navigation is good. Stay close and follow my lead. Copy that. 20 minutes inland, Morrison pointed at his display. Ma'am, I'm getting some strange readings on the NAV system. GPS coordinates are jumping around. Amanda looked at her screen. The numbers flickered, showing their position shifting randomly across several square kilometers. She switched to backup navigation, but the same problem appeared. Williams, check the GPS antenna connections. Roger, ma'am. The crew chief moved toward the cabin roof, checking cables and connections. Everything looks good back here. Amanda switched to manual navigation, using compass heading and ground speed calculations. Old school flying, the way her father had taught her during their weekend flights when she was a teenager. Phoenix 2, are you having GPS problems? She radioed. Affirmative. System's going crazy. Must be some kind of electronic interference. Switch to manual nav, follow visual reference points. Amanda studied the terrain ahead. A dry riverbed curved toward their target area. She could follow that and use landmark navigation. Phoenix 1, Phoenix 2. I've got a bigger problem. Hayes' voice was tight. My GPS is completely down, and I'm getting false altitude readings. Nearly flew into a hillside. Amanda felt her heart rate increase. Navigation failures were serious business in hostile territory. One wrong turn could put them over an enemy stronghold or into controlled airspace. Phoenix 2, take spacing and follow my lead. Stay visual on my position. Copy. Following you. Amanda reduced airspeed and climbed slightly to give Hayes a better visual reference. The mission timeline was tight, but keeping both helicopters safe was more important than arriving exactly on schedule. Morrison worked his radio, trying to contact the intelligence section. Base, Phoenix 1. We're experiencing navigation system malfunctions. Request updated target coordinates. The radio crackled with static. When a voice came through, it was broken and unclear. Phoenix 1, copy your last, target coordinates unchanged, proceed as briefed. Base, say again. Transmission garbled. More static. Then silence. Ma'am, we've lost communication with base, Morrison said. Amanda felt the first flutter of real concern. GPS down, communications intermittent, flying over hostile territory in total darkness. The mission was already more complicated than planned. Phoenix 2, do you have comms? Negative, Phoenix 1. Radio's working but I can't raise anybody. Amanda checked her fuel gauge. Still plenty for the mission and return flight, but not enough for extended navigation errors. They needed to reach the target area soon or consider aborting. She followed the dry riverbed through a gap in the hills. According to her calculations, the target village should be just ahead. But without GPS confirmation, she was flying on compass headings and dead reckoning, skills that worked fine until you needed precision. There, Morrison pointed ahead. Lights at 2 o'clock. Amanda saw them, a cluster of dim lights in a valley surrounded by hills. The size and position looked right for their target village. She circled wide to the north, staying out of small arms range while confirming the location. Phoenix 2, I have visual on what appears to be target area. Can you confirm? I see the lights. Looks right to me. Amanda switched to infrared and studied the buildings below. The thermal imaging showed several structures, with heat signatures indicating people inside the main building. 3 separate hot spots that could be the hostages. Williams, are the Rangers ready? Roger, ma'am. Ready to rope down on your command. Amanda checked her watch. They were 15 minutes behind schedule due to the navigation problems. The ground team would be expecting them soon. She began her approach to the landing zone, a flat area north of the village. As she descended, her radio suddenly crackled to life with an urgent transmission. Phoenix 1, Phoenix 2, abort your approach. Intelligence update. Hostages have been moved to a different location. Repeat, wrong target. Amanda's stomach dropped. They were about to insert troops at the wrong location, in the middle of hostile territory, with failing navigation systems and no way to find the correct target. Amanda pulled the Black Hawk into a sharp climb, abandoning the approach. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she processed the transmission. Base, Phoenix 1. Confirm abort. Request new target coordinates. Static filled her headset. Then a clearer voice came through. Phoenix 1, new intelligence shows hostages moved 8 kilometers southeast. Village called Duzareb. How copy? Copy, 8 kilometers southeast. Amanda banked hard right, scanning the horizon. Phoenix 2, did you copy that transmission? Negative, Phoenix 1. My radio's cutting in and out. What's the word? Amanda keyed her mic. New target. Follow me southeast. Hostages were moved. She pushed the Black Hawk's airspeed, racing against time and fuel calculations. 8 kilometers might as well be 80 when you're flying blind with navigation systems failing. Morrison worked frantically with paper charts, trying to plot their new course. Ma'am, based on our last known position, southeast puts us into some rough terrain. Hills and valleys. How rough? Elevation changes of 300 to 400 feet. Could be tricky in the dark. Amanda checked her fuel gauge again. Still adequate, but the margin was shrinking. Every minute of flight time ate into their reserve. Behind her, the Rangers sat quietly, professional soldiers used to mission changes. Their team leader, Sergeant First Class Adams, leaned forward. Ma'am, what's our new timeline? Working on it, Sergeant. Stay ready. The landscape below changed as they flew southeast. More hills, deeper valleys, fewer lights. This was bandit country, where Al-Shabaab fighters could be anywhere. Phoenix 1, this is Phoenix 2. I've got a problem. Amanda's blood went cold. Go ahead, Phoenix 2. Engine temperature climbing. Oil pressure dropping. I need to set down and check it out. Amanda looked back and could barely make out Hayes' helicopter in the darkness. A thin trail of something that might be smoke or vapor streamed from the engine area. How bad is it, Chief? Bad enough. I'm getting caution lights across the board. Need to put her down now before something catastrophic happens. Amanda scanned the terrain below. Nothing but rocky hills and scattered trees. Not ideal for an emergency landing, but Hayes didn't have a choice. Phoenix 2, I see a flat area at your 10 o'clock. Looks like a dry lake bed. I see it. Going down there. Amanda watched Hayes execute a textbook emergency auto-rotation, bringing the damaged helicopter down hard but safe on the flat ground. As soon as the rotors stopped spinning, his crew was out and working on the engine. Phoenix 1, Phoenix 2 is on the ground. We're looking at a cracked oil line and possible engine damage. Not going anywhere anytime soon. Amanda circled overhead, her mind racing through options. The mission timeline was falling apart. One helicopter down, navigation systems failing, and hostages waiting at an unknown location 8 kilometers away. Adams, she called back to the Ranger team leader. Can your team handle the extraction with reduced support? Yes, ma'am, but we'll need close air support for extraction. Can't carry 3 hostages and fight our way out on foot. Morrison pointed at his fuel gauge. Ma'am, we're approaching bingo fuel. Need to make a decision soon. Amanda knew the math. Bingo fuel meant just enough gas to get back to the ship safely. Military regulations said you never went below bingo fuel except in the most extreme circumstances. She thought about her father's final mission. He could have left his damaged helicopter and saved himself. Instead, he stayed and brought his crew home. Phoenix 2, can you provide radio relay if needed? Affirmative, Phoenix 1. We'll monitor and relay communications. Amanda made her decision. Phoenix 2, I'm continuing to target alone. Maintain position and be ready to relay extraction requests. Phoenix 1, negative. Abort and return to base. Single aircraft extraction violates operational protocols. Amanda felt a flash of anger. Hayes was right about the protocols, but protocols didn't account for 3 Americans sitting in enemy hands. Phoenix 2, those people down there aren't statistics in someone's after-action report. They're going home tonight, even if I don't. Silence on the radio. Then Hayes came back, his voice different. More respectful. Phoenix 1, understood. Be careful out there. Amanda turned southeast and pushed the Black Hawk to maximum cruise speed. Morrison worked with his charts and compass, trying to navigate to an unknown village in hostile territory. There, he pointed ahead. Lights in a valley. Could be our target. Amanda studied the settlement through her night vision. Smaller than the first village, maybe 20 buildings clustered around a central area. She switched to infrared and searched for heat signatures. I count multiple heat sources in the main building. Could be hostages and guards. She began her reconnaissance orbit, staying high enough to avoid small arms fire but low enough to assess the landing zone. The terrain was worse here, rocky ground surrounded by steep hills on 3 sides. Adams, LZ looks rough. Rocky with limited approach routes. We can handle it, ma'am. Rangers adapt and overcome. Amanda studied the tactical situation. 1 way in, 1 way out. Hills that could hide enemy fighters. No backup aircraft if things went wrong. Her fuel gauge showed they were now at bingo fuel level. Every pilot instinct told her to abort and return safely to the ship. But 3 Americans were counting on her to bring them home. She thought about her father's words from 20 years ago, Night Stalkers own the night. All stations, Phoenix 1. Beginning final approach. Stand by for insertion. She lined up for her attack run, knowing that once she committed to landing, there would be no turning back. The fuel situation meant one chance to get it right. As she descended toward the rocky landing zone, muzzle flashes suddenly erupted from the hills around the village. Small arms fire lit up the darkness like deadly fireflies. The mission had just become a hot extraction under enemy fire. Tracer rounds streaked past Amanda's windscreen like angry red hornets. She jinked the Black Hawk left, then right, making herself a harder target as enemy fire erupted from 3 different positions in the hills. Taking fire from multiple sources, she radioed. Beginning evasive approach. Morrison worked the defensive systems, popping chaff and flares to confuse any shoulder-fired missiles. Behind them, Williams manned the door gun, returning fire at the muzzle flashes below. Phoenix 2, Phoenix 1 is taking heavy fire. Multiple shooters in the hills. Hayes' voice crackled through the radio, Phoenix 1, abort approach. Too hot down there. Amanda ignored the transmission and dove toward the landing zone. The rocky ground rushed up fast, forcing her to flare hard and settle the helicopter with a bone-jarring impact. Before the skids fully touched down, Adams and his Rangers were already fast roping into the darkness. Rangers away, Williams called. All 6 deployed. Amanda lifted off immediately, gaining altitude and distance from the landing zone. Enemy fire followed her climb, bullets pinging off the fuselage. She felt the Black Hawk shudder as something important got hit. Ma'am, we've got hydraulic problems, Morrison called out, studying his instruments. Primary system is down. We're on backup only. Amanda tested the flight controls. The helicopter felt sluggish, requiring more effort to maneuver. With only backup hydraulics, she had maybe 30 minutes before the system failed completely. Williams, damage assessment. The crew chief moved through the cabin, checking for holes in systems damage. We took hits in the tail boom and main cabin. Hydraulic fluid is leaking, but nothing critical yet. Amanda orbited the village at a safe distance, watching infrared imagery as Adam's team moved toward the target building. The Rangers moved like ghosts, professional and silent. Phoenix 1, Ranger 6, Adams radioed. Building secured. We have 3 American hostages, all alive. 2 are ambulatory, 1 needs assistance walking. Relief flooded through Amanda's chest. The hostages were safe. Now she just had to get everyone home. Ranger 6, what's your extraction timeline? 5 minutes to reach LZ. Be advised, we're taking sporadic fire from the hills. LZ will be hot. Amanda checked her fuel gauge and felt her stomach tighten. Below bingo fuel now. Barely enough gas to make it back to the ship, and that was without any delays or complications. The backup hydraulic system warning light flickered on her instrument panel. Red letters flashed, hydraulic pressure low. Morrison saw it too. Ma'am, backup hydraulics are failing. We've got maybe 15 minutes before manual controls only. Amanda had trained for manual control landings, but never in combat conditions with a full load and limited fuel. Manual meant flying the helicopter using pure muscle strength against the control surfaces. Phoenix 2, Phoenix 1. Hydraulics failing. May need assistance. Phoenix 1, we're still working on our engine. What's your status? Fuel critical, hydraulics going, but I've got 6 Rangers and 3 hostages who need a ride home. Silence on the radio. Then Hayes came back. Phoenix 1, consider leaving the Rangers for ground extraction. Save the hostages and yourself. Amanda felt a flash of anger. Leave the Rangers? Leave Adams and his team in hostile territory while she flew to safety? That wasn't the Night Stalker way. Negative, Phoenix 2. We all go home together. She began her approach to the hot landing zone, fighting increasingly unresponsive controls. The Black Hawk wallowed through the air like a wounded bird, requiring constant corrections to maintain heading and altitude. Muzzle flashes erupted from the hills again as enemy fighters spotted her approach. Williams returned fire with the door gun, brass casings raining onto the cabin floor. Ranger 6, Phoenix 1 inbound. LZ is hot. Move fast. Roger, Phoenix 1. We're ready. Amanda lined up for the landing, compensating for crosswinds and the helicopter's sluggish response. The rocky ground rushed up in her night vision display. She flared hard, feeling the backup hydraulics struggle against the controls. The Black Hawk hit hard, bouncing once before settling. Immediately, Adams and his team sprinted from cover, carrying the 3 hostages between them. Williams helped pull everyone into the cabin while enemy fire cracked overhead. All aboard, Williams shouted. Go, go, go! Amanda pulled pitch and felt nothing. The collective control stick moved but the helicopter didn't respond. The backup hydraulics had finally failed completely. Manual controls, she announced, switching to the emergency manual flight system. Immediately, the control stick became heavy as concrete in her hands. She hauled back on the collective, using both hands and all her strength. Slowly, reluctantly, the Black Hawk lifted off the ground. Every control input required enormous physical effort, like arm wrestling the aircraft into submission. Phoenix 2, Phoenix 1 is airborne but barely. Flying manual controls. Fuel critical. Enemy fire followed them out of the valley, tracers lighting up the night sky. Amanda fought the controls, gaining altitude and distance through sheer determination and muscle strength. Morrison worked his navigation charts. Ma'am, direct course to the ship. We might make it if we don't hit any headwinds. The Black Hawk flew like a truck with square wheels. Amanda had to constantly adjust power settings and control inputs to maintain level flight. Sweat poured down her face despite the cool night air. Behind her, one of the rescued hostages was crying. The sound cut through the engine noise and radio chatter. Real people, saved from captivity, trusting her to get them home safely. Amanda thought about her father's final flight. He could have ejected when his systems failed. Could have saved himself and let the crew fend for themselves. Instead, he stayed at the controls and fought the aircraft all the way to the ground, saving 12 lives at the cost of his own. She understood now what Martinez meant about legacy. It wasn't about living up to her father's reputation. It wasn't about proving she was worthy of the Brooks name. It was about doing the job, no matter what it cost, because lives depended on her. Phoenix 2, Phoenix 1, she radioed. Tell Martinez we're bringing everyone home. Hayes' voice came back, and for the first time since she'd met him, it carried genuine respect. Copy that, Phoenix 1. Your old man would be proud. The Somali coastline appeared ahead, a thin line between land and sea. Beyond that, the lights of the Navy ship waited like a beacon in the darkness. Amanda gripped the controls tighter and flew toward home. Amanda's arms felt like lead as she fought the Black Hawk toward the USS Bataan. The ship's deck lights grew larger against the black ocean, but every mile was a battle against failing systems and her own exhaustion. Phoenix 1, Bataan Tower. We have you on radar. Cleared for immediate approach. Medical team standing by. Bataan Tower, Phoenix 1. Manual flight controls only. Request emergency landing procedures. Copy manual controls. Fire trucks are rolling. Deck is clear. Morrison checked their fuel gauge one last time. Ma'am, we're running on fumes. Maybe 2 minutes of flight time left. Amanda lined up with the ship's landing platform, fighting crosswinds that tried to push the helicopter sideways. With no hydraulic assist, every gust of wind required massive control inputs to maintain course. The ship's deck rushed up fast. Amanda flared hard, using every ounce of strength left in her arms. The Black Hawk hit with a thunderous crash that shook every bolt in the airframe. Sparks flew as the skids scraped across the deck plating. We're down, she gasped into her microphone. Fire trucks and medical teams swarmed the helicopter before the rotors stopped turning. Amanda's hands were cramped into claws around the controls. Morrison had to help her pry her fingers loose. Ma'am, you did it. Everyone's home safe. Amanda stumbled out of her seat and walked to the cabin. The 3 rescued hostages sat wrapped in blankets, looking dazed but alive. Dr. Sarah Mitchell looked up as Amanda approached. You're the pilot, Mitchell said. Thank you. I thought we were going to die in that place. Just doing my job, ma'am. Adams stepped forward, still in his combat gear. Colonel Brooks, that was some flying. Best I've ever seen. Amanda nodded, too tired for words. Around her, the deck bustled with activity as medics checked everyone for injuries and intelligence officers prepared to debrief the rescued hostages. Martinez appeared at her elbow. Phoenix, you look like hell. Feel worse than I look. Amanda accepted the bottle of water he handed her. Hayes and his crew. Already inbound. Engines fixed and they're 30 minutes out. Martinez studied her face. You violated about 6 safety regulations tonight. Flew below bingo fuel, attempted a hot extraction with failing systems, and risked a $12 million helicopter. Amanda felt her chest tighten. Yes, sir. And you brought everyone home alive. Martinez smiled. Your father would have done exactly the same thing. An hour later, Amanda sat in the ship's medical bay getting her hands checked for stress injuries. The doctor wrapped her wrists in elastic bandages and told her to take it easy for a few days. Hayes walked in as the doctor was finishing. The older pilot looked tired but satisfied. Heard you had some excitement, he said. Nothing I couldn't handle. Hayes pulled up a chair and sat down heavily. Brooks, I owe you an apology. What I said in that briefing room was out of line. You were testing me. Maybe. Or maybe I was just being an ass. Hayes looked at his hands. I flew with your father for 3 years. Watched him become one of the best pilots in the Army. But I also watched what the pressure did to him. Amanda waited for him to continue. James carried the weight of everyone's expectations. Every mission, every flight, people were watching to see if the legend was real. Haze met her eyes. I didn't want to see you crushed by that same weight. What changed your mind? Tonight, when you told me those people were going home no matter what. That wasn't James Brooks talking. That was Amanda Brooks, making her own decisions for her own reasons. Haze stood up. Your old man would be proud. Not because you flew like him tonight, but because you flew better. The words hit deeper than any medal or commendation could have. Amanda felt something release in her chest, a tension she'd carried for 20 years. 2 weeks later, Amanda stood in Arlington National Cemetery, holding a small wooden box. The morning was crisp and clear, with autumn leaves scattered across the perfectly maintained grounds. She found her father's grave easily. She'd been there many times over the years, but this visit felt different. Hey Dad, she said quietly, kneeling beside the white marble headstone. Got something to tell you. She opened the box and pulled out his old dog tags, the ones she'd worn on every flight since joining the army. They caught the morning sunlight, worn smooth by years of handling. I spent 20 years trying to live up to your shadow. Trying to prove I was worthy of the Brooks name. Trying to be you. She placed the dog tags on the headstone. Tonight I realized I was meant to cast my own. Amanda stood and looked around the cemetery. Thousands of white markers stretched in perfect rows, each one representing someone who'd served their country. Her father was one among many, honored but not alone. The Night Stalkers want me to stay on as an instructor. Teaching the next generation. She smiled. Maybe I can help some young pilot figure out who they are instead of who they think they should be. The wind rustled through the oak trees overhead, carrying the sound of aircraft from nearby Reagan National Airport. Somewhere out there, other pilots were learning to fly, learning to serve, learning to find their own way in the darkness. Amanda walked back to her car, leaving the dog tags on the grave. She didn't need to carry them anymore. 3 months later, at Fort Campbell, Amanda stood in front of a class of new Night Stalker pilots. The classroom was filled with young men and women, all eager to prove themselves worthy of the unit's reputation. Who can tell me the most important thing about night operations? She asked. A young lieutenant raised her hand. Ma'am, superior equipment and training? Good answer, but wrong. Amanda walked to the front of the classroom. The most important thing is knowing who you are when everything goes wrong. When your equipment fails, when your training isn't enough, when you're alone in the dark with people counting on you. Another student spoke up. How do you know who you are, ma'am? Amanda thought about Somalia, about flying with manual controls while enemy fire lit up the night sky. About choosing to risk everything rather than leave anyone behind. You find out by making hard choices. By deciding what matters more than your own safety. By earning your place through actions, not inheritance. A young pilot in the back row raised his hand. Colonel Brooks, is it true you're Colonel Reaper Brooks' daughter? The question that had followed her entire career. For 20 years, it had felt like a weight around her neck. Now it felt different. Yes, I'm James Brooks' daughter. He was a good man and a great pilot. But I'm not here because of who my father was. I'm here because of who I chose to become. She looked around the classroom at the eager faces. Somewhere among them might be another pilot carrying the weight of family expectations, trying to live up to someone else's legend. Your legacy isn't what you inherit, Amanda said. It's what you leave behind. It's the people you save, the crews you train, the example you set when no one's watching. After class, a young female pilot approached her desk. Captain Jennifer Walsh, according to her name tape. She looked nervous. Ma'am, can I ask you something? Of course. My grandfather was a pilot in Vietnam. Everyone in my family expects me to be just like him. But what if I'm not? What if I can't live up to what he was? Amanda smiled, remembering her own doubts and fears. Captain Walsh, let me tell you something my mentor taught me. Your grandfather earned his place by doing his job, making hard choices, and bringing his people home. That's exactly what you'll do too, but you'll do it your way, with your skills, facing your own challenges. Yes, ma'am. And Walsh? Your grandfather would be proud of you for asking that question. It means you understand what's at stake. The young pilot left with a lighter step. Amanda gathered her notes and headed for the flight line. She had a training mission to fly, students to teach, and her own legacy to build. Outside, the Kentucky sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. Soon it would be dark. Soon the Night Stalkers would own the night again, as they always had, as they always would. Amanda Brooks walked toward her helicopter, no longer trying to be someone else's idea of a hero. She was exactly who she was meant to be. Thanks for joining me for Amanda's story tonight. If you enjoyed hearing about courage, honor, and finding your own path, I'd love it if you'd hit that like button and subscribe for more inspiring military stories.